All right. Here we have two basketball players, and the scores are shown over 20 games. So the idea is to look at the mean, the median, the range, the interquartile range, and something called the sample standard deviation. Now, for those of you who are new to this, the sample standard deviation is the average difference of the individual scores from the mean of the scores. It gives you an idea of how widely spread the scores are for each individual. So we'll just go through the familiar ones first, and then we'll then go through sample standard deviation, and we have a mock-up of a sharp calculator, which we can use to conveniently calculate the mean and the sample standard deviation. All right, let's start off with the mean. All right, so what we're going to do is to first of all change the calculator, or to turn on the statistics function of the calculator. And so this is what we do. We click on mode. All right, we select 1 for statistics, and we put it and we make the next selection as 0. All right. So so now we are on the statistics mode for the calculator. So what we're going to do is we're going to now enter the values or the scores for Adrian. So to do that, all we have to do to make sure that we don't have any other data that is stored on the calculator, we first of all clear the data. So in which case, what we do is we click the second function, and then we click mode. So this clears all the data that might have been stored on the calculator earlier on. So let's go about putting in the data. So we have the first score is 8, and we entered that into memory by clicking on the M+ button. So we have just entered the first data in the set. So the data set, there is 1 in the data set currently. Okay, and then we're going to click 9. That's the next one. Okay, so we have 2 in the data set now. 8, 6, 7, 9, 4, 8, 6, 7, 5, 7, 8, 8, 8, and we're finishing the last 3 numbers. And finally 10. That's our last score. So you'll see that I have entered a total of 20 pieces of data for Adrian. So let's calculate the mean now. Now all I have to do, and this calculator will do it automatically for us, and we just click on alpha, and we're going to click on the mean. Now the symbol for mean is a dash with an X below, and I have shown that over here. Okay, so click alpha followed by this key over here. Press equals. That gives us 7.55. So the mean for Adrian equals to 7.55. Now, since we have already entered the scores for Adrian, I might as well use the scores in there to calculate the standard deviation. All right. Now, the symbol for standard deviation on the calculator is this one over here. All right. That's the sigma followed by x. So I'm going to press alpha again. And then I am going to click on sigma x and press the equal sign. That gives us 1.43. So for the standard deviation, all right, for Adrian, standard deviation, all right, for Adrian, that is going to amount to 1.43. And what it means is that on average, all right, each of these values is 1.43 away from the mean, which is 7.55. Now I will reintroduce, I will break it down into more detail how standard deviation is actually calculated by hand. But in the meantime, we will use the calculator. Right, so we have done this for Adrian. So Adrian's mean is 7.55, and the standard deviation of the average difference between the scores for Adrian and his mean is 1.43. So let's do it for Zoltan. All right. So to clear now, because we have already entered the data for Adrian, I'm going to clear it so that we can enter the data for Zoltan. All right. So this is what we're going to do. We click on the second function and we click on mode. That will clear the calculator of all the data we have entered for Adrian. So now we key in the information for Zoltan. So that's 8, 7, 5, 7, 8, 9, 9, 9, 8, 5, 7, 10, 6, 6, 9, 5, 7, 8, 8, and 10. There you go. So we have put in the data for Zoltan. Now again, to find the mean, it's a simple case of clicking on the alpha button before clicking on the button for mean, which is the slash with the X below. There you go. You press the equal sign. That gives us 7.55 as well. So apparently Zoltan and Adrian had the same mean. That's Zoltan. Zoltan has a mean of 7.55 as well. Now let's take a look to see if Zoltan has the same standard, Zoltan's scores has the same standard deviation as Adrian. So we're going to click on alpha, and we're going to click on standard deviation. Press the equal sign. That's 1.53. So Zoltan has a standard deviation of 1.53. Now, what does this mean? This means that on average, the scores of Zoltan differ from Zoltan's mean by 1.53. This means that Zoltan's scores are more widely spread compared to Adrian. Now, this will become more apparent, all right, when we actually find the median and the inter-quartile range. That will give you a good idea of where the 25%, 50%, and 75% of the scores lie below. So let's do this.